Good morning. Today is Sunday, June 25th. Still in the morning hours, not terribly early morning hours, but we're out here assessing the garden. As we talked about in previous videos, it's been very dry up here and somewhat unseasonably warm. The last week has been pretty much in the 90s. I should clarify, this is the farm garden. And my parents have been doing a great service to the garden by making sure it's getting as much water as it needs just to stay alive. But since Friday, again today is Sunday, since Friday we've gotten at least an inch of rain up here, which is going to do absolute wonders for that garden. Now we do water with well water, which of course is untreated, so there's no chlorine or any of that other stuff that you might have in city water. So it's great water for the garden, but there's something about rainwater that just makes it explode. On top of the fact that there was quite a lightning show last night, which, as I understand, adds nitrogen. And nitrogen is great for your garden, of course, as long as you don't overdo it. So lots of things have exploded in the garden in the last week, and I'm excited to show you. Troy mentioned to me yesterday, and I think it's a great idea, that I should probably start doing two-part videos for the weekends up here at the farm garden so that you can see what it looks like when we get here on Friday night, Saturday morning, and then you can see how much we've accomplished when I take the second video on Sunday. We did get a ton of stuff done in the garden yesterday, but I'm super new to this whole YouTube thing. I have not figured out or taken the time to sit down and figure out how to edit some of these videos so I can put them together and make just one YouTube post. My fear there, similar to what I mentioned in one of my very first videos, is that I'll get it all together, and if it requires me sitting down in front of a laptop and doing editing, that it might just never make it out to YouTube. So you get the raw video here, unpolished, uncut. This is real. This is just how it is. So I'm currently standing at the northwest corner of the garden and somewhat close to the road. And the reason I started here was because I wanted to show you ages ago what the garden looked like. You can kind of see a little bit next to these trees how there's kind of a hump, and that used to be the edge of the old garden. So back when my grandmother and grandfather were gardening out here, the garden was 2.5 times the size it is right now, and my grandpa used to care for it all summer long by hand. And he used to have, I don't know, of the area that you see right now that's not planted, which pretty much goes from those stakes there to the edge of the grass and then back to where the garden is now, I would say 2/3 of that was corn, and he was known for growing some of the best sweet corn up in this area. We've decided not to even tackle corn, in part because there's a great place that we get corn from in the Park Rapids area. They come down and sell it here locally, and we like to support them, and they have great corn. So we buy at least 10 dozen ears every year, and we blanch it, cut it off the cob, and freeze it, and that holds us on corn for the entire year. So maybe corn is the future, maybe not. What we're doing up here is we're kind of trying to create a screen by taking trees from the woods and transplanting them up here. We lost a couple. We're learning. Again, these were just all volunteers out in the woods. The larger they are, the harder they are to winter over. And we did have a particularly hard winter, not from a standpoint of being cold, but from a standpoint of having a lot of snow this past year. So many things can contribute to that. I also, between this post and that skinny post there, kind of where Duke is laying, I planted a whole bunch of sunflower seeds this spring, which is a tedious task. The idea was, wouldn't it be cool to have this wall of sunflowers? Well, again, with a really dry spring and not being here Monday through Friday to be able to transport water up to this part, none of them really germinated, and that's okay. And I was reluctant to put sunflowers in and around the garden for two reasons. One, pests. That's going to bring in raccoons and deer and everything else that likes to eat sunflower seeds. And also, I had read, and Troy had read as well, that sunflowers can inhibit growth on other plants. So the last thing I wanted to do was plant something that I thought would be pretty and neat in the garden and have it stunt the growth of all of our other plants. So I'm gonna do a little bit more research on that. There's our city wannabe farm dog. He loves it up here. He would stay up here all the time if he could. But anyway, so what I wanted to show you was the original size of the garden. I don't know that we'll ever get back to that, but yeah, this has always been the garden. The farm here was established in 1942 by my grandmother Marie and her husband, my grandfather Ross Perry. When they moved in 1942, they had two boys, Ralph and Mel. And my dad was actually born here on the property in the house in 1944. And my dad said that for as long as he can remember, this has always been the garden area. So I'm taking you over here to show you something that has been here pretty much forever. This is a plant that is loved by some and hated by others. This is horseradish. And this plant has been here, my grandmother, I believe, transplanted it here from Ortonville, which is where she originally hailed from. So it's been here forever. Probably about 20 years ago, someone wanted some of the root, so we dug down, and we went down 4 feet, which is not a terribly difficult task in the sandy soil. It's actually kind of fun to dig holes around here because you can dig them deep and big, and it doesn't take that much time, and it's not terribly hard. But anyway, that root was still going. 4 feet down into the ground, and it was still going.
It was about the size of a nickel.
And the diameter was about the size of a nickel on that root. So this will probably be here forever. As I understand, if you don't want horseradish, it's very difficult to get rid of it. It's not hurting anybody out here. We just let it grow and know that if someday we want to do something with horseradish, we can. So I did prepare some information that I wanted to share with you, since there's a high probability that we have family and friends now that may be subscribed to the channel and watching, who are in tropical locations. And we here in central Minnesota are going to experience a much different growing season than our family and friends who may be planting and harvesting in tropical locations like the Philippines. So I just wanted to talk about a little bit of some of the challenges and what our growing season is like here. And it's sprinkling again, so I apologize if it gets a little rocky. But we are in Cass County, Minnesota, which is essentially the middle of the state. If you draw a straight line between Duluth, Minnesota, which is on the banks of Lake Superior, to Fargo, North Dakota, we're almost smack in the middle of that. So that gives you a little idea where we are. And the USDA growing zone here is zone 3B, as in boy. And what that means is our winters for temperature get from 35 below zero to 30 below zero Fahrenheit, which translates to 37.2 below to 34.4 below Celsius. And that helps us determine the hardiness of the plants and what's going to winter over, what's not. We have very few garden items that are going to winter over. That horseradish does its thing, rhubarb does its thing, but anything else you see here in the garden is not going to survive over the winter. So we've got to start and plant these things every single year. Our city garden is in 4B, which experiences temperatures from 25 below zero to 20 below zero Fahrenheit. That translates to 31 below to 28 below Celsius. And then the other thing we have to consider is our first and last frost dates. So for the city garden, the average last frost date is April 30th, and the average first frost date is October 11th. So that gives us 163 days from average frost to average frost, spring to fall, to harvest. That's kind of a short little time frame. And then here at the farm, the average last frost date is May 11th, and the average first frost date is September 30th. That gives us 141 days of growing up here. Now, the advantage we have is the longest day of the summer, or the longest day of the year, just happened. And we're talking about a sunrise at about 20 minutes after 5 in the morning and a sunset around 9:30 p.m. So what we lose in longevity in the growing season, we somewhat gain by the amount of sunlight hours that we have to grow our garden. It's not Alaska, but it's pretty darn close, it seems sometimes. So what happens, the other thing I wanted to touch on is seeds and time to harvest. So tomatoes, if you get a tomato packet, and I did research this, by the way, Troy, so I'm not just spewing garbage. We were talking about this yesterday and didn't have the answers. If a seed packet says that it's 60 days to harvest, that means that when you put it in the ground as a started plant, you should have your first ripe fruits within 60 days. Anything that you direct sow, like your cucumbers, melons, things like that, you would start from when you put it in the ground. And days to harvest for most of those is 90 to 100 days. So we've really got to try and plant things real close to our last frost date. It's a gamble sometimes because we have had snow. We have had a frost in June here. Actually, 4th of July weekend, a number of years ago, we had a frost. It was a very challenging year. But anyway, that's just some information about what we work with for a growing season. And Troy was kind enough to bring me a little umbrella here. You know, by now I'm not made out of sugar. I'm definitely not going to melt. But thank you for the sentiment. Anyway, let's start with our garden tour. That was a whole lot of time spent on a whole lot of information. I just wanted to put that out there so that you had an idea on what we're working with here in our Minnesota garden. So we've got on the far end here, again, weeds, a constant struggle, something we're going to deal with, and it's just part of gardening. If you don't want to put chemicals on your garden, you're going to have to get down on your hands and knees and just pull these guys. We do the best we can up here in the farm garden with the limited time we have, which is essentially Saturdays and Sundays. And yeah, we just do what we can and be okay with the rest. Someone, actually Jess Sowards from Roots and Refuge, she has a YouTube channel, and she's located in, I think, North Carolina, South Carolina. And her comment was, a weed is not a bad thing. It's simply a plant that's growing in a place that you don't want it to grow. So keep that in perspective, and you'll become okay with a few little shoots of grass here and there where you don't necessarily want them. So we got some major developments here with our green beans. These are the rattlesnake beans, and they are climbing up the fence. These guys need no help. They find it, they grab onto it, and they grow up. They've really exploded here in the last week. And our potatoes are looking great. As I commented in previous videos, we're fighting with potato bugs, but I don't want to say we're winning the fight, but we've definitely been able to stay on top of it, and just by coming out here and picking off the adults and eliminating the eggs so that they can't continue to proliferate, because they do that quite well. These are some other varieties of beans here. Again, everybody's grabbing the fence. This fence is how tall? 6 feet? 6-ish feet? Maybe just shy of it. So we're, halfway up the fence. That's a great start. Probably won't have anything to harvest on the beans until probably mid to late July. By late July, it'll be in full swing for sure. These potatoes are knee-high, and there a lot of them are blossoming and blooming, which means that the fruit is starting to develop underneath the soil. And there's a really nice blossom over here on one of our Nakota potatoes. That means that the fruit is developing below the soil, and that means that by next week we can probably steal some potatoes, which we'll show you what that looks like. You essentially just reach underneath the soil and grab for new potatoes and cover the other ones back up so that they can mature in there. It's one of our favorite things to do early on, because those potatoes are so tender. All right, so these are pinto beans. Again, real spotty on those, but that's okay. We threw them in because we thought it'd be neat to try. Never grown pinto or kidney beans. We've got them both in the garden this year. We'll see how it goes. If we can not only can and freeze vegetables from the garden, but also do some dry products, shelf stable, why not? That's the whole point of the garden. Why not? Because we can. So these are kidney beans and some pintos over here. These guys look really, really good. And also about knee-high. These are shell peas. Ooh, we've got blossoms on our shell peas. Check that out. That means pods will be coming on soon. My mom usually complains about the peas because she likes to harvest them when they're mature, to shell them, to cook them, to eat them. My dad and I and my boys like to come out and pick the pods and eat them raw right out of the pods. They're so sweet, so tasty. They never make it into the pot to get cooked. So we've got enough planted this year where we can definitely make sure Mom gets some to cook. And Troy. Yes, Troy likes them cooked as well.
Cream new potatoes and peas.
Cream new potatoes and peas. Can't wait.
Oh, look.
So
my pea pods are coming up.
Troy replanted some sugar snap peas over here, and they're starting to come up. For whatever reason, they didn't come up very well. We've had conversations about this. I think we're going to roll the dice next year and start these in April, even before the average last frost date, because they are a cool weather crop. And once it starts to get hot, like it has been in this past week and undoubtedly will be for the rest of the season, they just kind of, they shrivel up and they don't produce very well. So we will continue to monitor those and maybe try something different. And you know what? If they do frost and they don't make it because we planted them too early, we can start again. A package of seeds for peas is not terribly expensive. And the thing with all of this is buying a seed packet and putting these things in the ground, even if it doesn't make it, it's still far cheaper than trying to buy this stuff in the grocery store. And it's going to be higher quality. So, got Troy. I like having him with me when I make these videos because he adds great insight, fills in the blanks where I'm forgetting to say things, and he's also able to get down there and kind of show you what we've got going on easier than I can. So these are carrots. We talked in the last video that we're probably gonna wait and weed these until the 4th of July week, which is coming up.
This is a good one.
Yeah, those guys are nice size. Now there's still some in there that are totally little teeny weeny guys. And if you grab that grass, Troy, just grab a piece of grass, grab that piece of grass and pull it. You can see how disruptive that is to the soil. And those guys are so tender that they'll come right out with the grass. So if we let the root establish a little bit better, they have a better chance once we weed. And yeah, this is an absolute mess, but you know, it's okay. It's okay. I want to show you something over here. Tomatoes. And this is what kind of started the conversation about doing a video on Saturday and then wrapping up on Sunday. We spent a good portion of the day yesterday pruning these tomatoes and then tying them up to the fence. You can see here we've got kind of like a twisty type thing, loosely holding it up to the fence. It would have been nice to show you guys what these tomatoes look like before they were pruned, because they were bushy and wild and unruly, which is absolutely fine. But since we have them planted so close together, it's going to be important for us to manage the foliage and, keep enough airflow in between them so to prevent funguses and diseases from grabbing hold. But overall, I'm really excited and happy with the way the tomatoes are going. We've got some baby tomatoes here, you can see. And of course, blooms galore, blossoms galore, which will all become tomatoes. And as that fruit starts to set on and starts to get heavy, we will also attach those branches to the cattle panel here to help support that fruit. Another thing I'm excited to try is basil tea. So we've got, 5 different kinds of basil. Those are globe basil. And these guys down here, I think, are Genovese basil. You can see the difference in their shapes and forms. I wish that you guys could smell this. It is just a fresh, aromatic. I never knew I liked basil until it started growing fresh. We started growing it in the garden. It smells wonderful. So anyway, apparently what you do is you top these guys and you steep them in hot water. And then apparently it makes a nice refreshing drink when you drink it, kind of like iced tea. You can put lemon in it. You can add honey to sweeten it. And since we have such a plethora of different basil plants, I'm excited to try that. Wanted to do it this weekend. Not sure if we will or not. But yeah, that's definitely in the plans. I'll let you know what that tastes like. Over here is daikon radish. Troy, what were you seeing of the roots?
They're about the diameter of a number 2 pencil right now.
Okay, cool.
So I don't know how big they're supposed to get. In the store, they're like usually. We'll see.
This should be great soil for it.
I mean, carrots do well. So.
Yeah, all the root vegetables in this garden do really well because of the sandy soil. They're not inhibited by hard-packed clay or anything like that to grow. So it'll be interesting to see how they do. So again, we still have 90-some tomato plants. And I mean, look at the stalk on this thing. These things are just robust. It's awesome. I don't know. What is that? An inch and a half diameter? Maybe
about
inch?
The diameter of a nickel.
Okay. Diameter of a nickel. We'll go with that. Sounds good.
It's an easy way to tell people how big it is.
Yeah. Sounds good. So yeah, these guys are all looking good. We've got one guy. I just don't understand what this is or why this is. It's still green, so we've left it, but...
I'm going to dig that soil up when we get at the end of the season, because I have a feeling there's a big chunk of charcoal or something in there.
Yeah, there might be something that's inhibiting its growth, but its leaves even look weird, like the shape of the leaf. You look at this, and then you look at this. Yeah, not sure what's going on there.
If somebody knows what it is.
If somebody knows what it is, let us know. But it's still green, so we'll just let it be. It is what it is. All right. So again, we had some, when I was pruning yesterday, there are some little branches that were really low on some plants that had roots on them. So guess what? We just stuck them in the dirt. They're going to do what they're going to do. And these guys were topped and looked awful. We stuck them in the dirt and, well, there they go. I remember from the movie Jurassic Park, one of the lines that Jeff Goldblum said was, "Life will find a way." This garden is proof of that. Life will find a way. The vines, insane. There's a vine on the other side of the garden I'm excited to tell you about. I'll actually let Troy tell you about it, because It's quite amazing. This is spaghetti squash, doing great. As we come down here, here's Joel's potato. I think he was being silly. He found this ratty old looking potato and he's like, I'm going to plant it right here.
But he
We're
was
like,
convinced it was never going to grow.
He was convinced it was never going to grow. So weeks and weeks later, here it is. And you know what? If you can get a kid interested in growing, do it. My goodness, what a fantastic skill to have. Who knows? Hopefully in their lifetime, they can do it as a hobby. And not a necessity. So we'll see. These are the morning glories. There's also moonflower in here because I thought, oh, how cool would it be once the morning glories close their little eyes in the evening to have moonflowers that open in the evening. So we've always got flowers open. And again, you can't eat them, but they're pretty and they're fun. So why not? This is Swiss chard, completely ready to harvest and eat. These are radishes, and those are turnips. Dad harvested radishes yesterday. I've got a picture. Again, because I am not a skilled YouTuber, nor am I taking the time to edit these videos. I'd love to add the picture to this YouTube, but I don't know if I'll get to that. So anyway, the radishes, there are white radishes and red radishes in there. And they're about the size of a golf ball, right?
Yeah.
I mean, some of them were a little bit smaller, but...
Maybe closer to a ping pong ball.
Yeah. But they're looking good. This guy and that guy... Hey, can you stand next to one so I can... That's how big the zucchini is. We've got blossoms on them, but I don't see any vegetable that we can show you a picture of yet. But yeah, the vines have absolutely gone crazy. And so this is an exciting thing. Troy, why don't you come over here and tell us about this squash?
And I wish I would have taken a photo of it. Yesterday, you were over there weeding, so what was that, 2 o'clock in the afternoon?
About that, yeah.
This end of this vine was here.
Yes.
So it has grown 6 inches.
In a day.
Just overnight.
Oh, yeah, just overnight.
I mean,
The last half of yesterday afternoon.
Insane.
Yeah, it's crazy and awesome all at the same time.
Well, and unfortunately, when this stuff grows like this, the weeds grow really well too.
That's true. That's true. It's not just the plants that grow well, it's the weeds as well. All right, so this is a squash. We were having trouble reading what the description was. No, these guys over here are petty pan.
Oh, then these were the...
delicata.
Yeah.
Honeyboat delicata.
I think that's what those ones are.
Yeah, stand next to that leaf. It's insanely big. It resembles a rhubarb leaf almost. So those guys are all doing really well. Take you over here and show you the peppers real quick. Look at this guy. We got a fruit. We got a fruit. Here's a pepper. Some more peppers. A melon of some kind. A squash. These are ground cherries. They're doing well. I don't see any blossoms on those yet. I have to do a little research and find out when they start setting on blossoms. More peppers. These again are the jalapeno and the Thai chili peppers. Here's a little watermelon. This was a direct sown watermelon, right?
Correct.
Okay.
So it was a start, but the start started looking like it was going to die, so I dropped a couple seeds in there too. And what's growing now is the direct sow.
Okay. Gotcha.
And that one is a pure start.
So to compare, this one was started indoors in end of March,
Yep.
like 30th or 31st of March. One thing we did notice is we had heard, in part from my sister, who's been a great resource for the garden and has been somewhat of my inspiration for tackling this project, well, it's a joint idea between Troy and I, because if we don't both buy into it, it's not happening. It's too much work for just one of us. Melons, cucumbers, things of that nature tend to shock when you start them indoors and then put them in your garden. We did see that, especially with the cucumbers, I think. So we decided, I think Troy will probably still start some melons. And I think that going forward, the cucumbers, the squash, the pumpkins, all of those things, we can't tell the difference anymore with those guys. Which ones were direct sown versus which ones were starts.
Zucchinis were direct sown.
Zucchinis were direct sown, right.
That little, whatever that watermelon is, and the one by the sprinkler head, those were both direct sown. Everything here and the pumpkin in the middle was all start, except for obviously that one watermelon.
Right. So there's no advantage really to starting them indoors when they do so well, by waiting until the temperature is right to get them in the ground and just direct sow. Yeah.
The bitter melon.
Yep, these are the bitter melon. They're growing like mad, really reaching out and grabbing onto the trellis and doing well. I'm excited to see. It looks like we might get some blooms here soon. Mm-hmm. So those are exciting. We'll see what they turn into. This is the Mexican gherkin, aka cucamelon. Very petite little leaves. They almost look like grape leaves. Very petite. There's a cucumber. I don't see anything much going on with that one. Another bitter melon.
Just crazy.
Yeah.
I think it likes the heat.
I think it likes the heat as well, which makes sense considering where it's from. So, bitter melon. There's Swiss chard. This is ready at this point to harvest. You can eat it. I believe you can eat it raw. This was, my mom wanted this. A lot of times people kind of blanch it like spinach and eat it. Here is where I got super excited. Like yesterday, I actually was screeching with excitement out here in the garden. Can you find a bit of what I was so excited about?
Let me grab this guy.
I don't know if there's anything on this one. I know it's on the next two.
There is, but we'll go to the next one. Oh, you might as well just
There we go.
There we go. That's a good one.
Cucumber! Yay! That is
And you got a lot of cucumbers.
that big. It's about the length of my pinky finger.
That would make almost a good baby dill.
It might make a good baby dill, yes. These guys that I planted are more the English variety, so they should stay skinny. Oh my gosh, Duke. Yes, hello, Duker. My good boy. They should stay skinny and grow long. So that is super exciting for me because I love cucumbers. So yeah, there we go. And these are the decorative peas that I put in over here. They're supposed to be very fragrant and pretty to look at. And they're just kind of taking off now. These guys are cabbage. These were the guys that were labeled as San Marzano tomatoes. They are definitely not. I don't know if there was a package mix-up or if there was just human error involved here. Could have been a combination of both. But anyway, we've got lots of nice little cabbages where we thought we were getting San Marzano tomatoes. And the marigolds are doing great. We've done some additional research, and I think we're going to double or triple our number of starts on the marigolds because we're finding out that they are beneficial to more than just the brassicas. The tomatoes can benefit from them because they kind of stink. And I'll tell you, after spending yesterday on my hands and knees over here, they stink.
Do they?
Yes, they do. They are not pleasant.
And I have sat here and watched those stupid white butterflies come in and try and land. They get about 4 inches away, and they fly away.
Yeah.
So I know there's people out there who say that they tried it and it didn't work. I'm sorry it didn't work for you, but it does for us. And
yeah.
We're going to continue to do it.
Yep, exactly. So here are our 2 megaton cabbages. And it's kind of funny too. I noticed yesterday, all these marigolds were started at the exact same time. They were all put in the ground at the exact same time. And yet, look at the ones that are most prolific, the ones that are doing the best. They're the ones that are right on top of the brassicas. This guy is 4 times the size and height of that one. So they really like each other. They're beneficial. These guys are starting to form heads, which is awesome. And our broccoli is doing really well. You know what's really interesting, Troy, is I noticed yesterday when I was weeding these, down at the base of each of these broccoli, and I don't know if I really left many, but there were little shoots. Nope, I don't see them. There were little shoots that were actually sending broccoli heads at the base of the plant.
Oh yeah.
So I'd never seen that before. So interesting stuff. And I'll tell you, it is so super satisfying walking through here, having the ground be nice and loose and for the most part weed free. It's a great feeling at the end of the day when you're covered in sweat and mud and bug bites to know that you've made a difference in the garden. It's going to be an eternal work of or labor of love, but it's doing really well. Also noticed that our little birds over here are getting to a point where they might be ready to fly here shortly. I don't know if I'm going to be able to see anything in there, but when Mom comes in with some food, they are poking their heads out of there. Yeah, you can kind of see there's a little bird right there. Anyway, I will try. Again, this is the problem. When they were super active yesterday, Dummy here, 48-year-old, technically challenged mother of 2. I don't know how to splice one video to the other. Furthermore, I don't know how much time it would take. And just like waiting until the garden looks perfect to take videos of it and show it to you, it would probably never happen. So, you know what? This is real. This is life. This is good stuff. How can it be bad to grow your own food? How can it be bad to know how it was grown, where it was grown, what chemicals were put on it or not? We're still trying to be as chemical free as possible. And like I said, by doing that, you're going to spend a lot of time on your hands and knees fighting the plants that you don't want in the garden, the grasses and pigweeds and such, to give your plants the best chance at moving forward and being productive. So I am very excited to continue to make these videos and show you guys the change. I mean, really, we started the week before Memorial Day. It's been 4 weeks. In 4 weeks, this has gone from dirt to this. Holy crap, you guys. 4 weeks. Oh, and I forgot to really show you my tomatillos. Those guys are going insane. Look at them. Crazy. Got some salsa verde in our future. All right, thanks for watching. We appreciate all of your interest and support, and we'll continue to make these videos, one, so that we can learn what works, what didn't, what we want to change, what we want to add, and you all can see what these 2 crazy city kids are doing with every weekend. Thanks for joining us. Until next time, take care.